Welcome to the Core Women Podcast, the place for women entrepreneurs, authors, and self-starters looking to build community and gain valuable insights through expert interviews with women at the top of their game. Join your host, podcaster, producer, expert coach, entrepreneur, and author, Dr. Summer Watson, as she aims to inspire and empower you through these candid conversations. Lean in and embrace the journey. It's time to start the show. Here's your host, Dr. Summer Watson.
Welcome to the Core Women Podcast, where we explore the real stories behind powerful leadership. Today's guest is Kym Insana, who is a multi-million-dollar business owner, digital marketing expert, and founder of AlwaysOn Digital. After building a successful career in New York City advertising, Kym made a bold move. She launched a company that prioritizes performance and parenthood. As a wife and mother of four, Kym now leads a woman-owned agency that helps brands like Good American and Enfamil scale through meaningful digital strategy while supporting working parents to thrive, not just survive. Welcome, Kym.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Before we dive into your professional journey, if you could describe your life to this point in one word, what would that word be and why?
I would say it's lucky. I feel that I am lucky, and I don't want to say that in a egotistical way by any means, but sometimes, having luck could be in the form of little things as well as big things.
Yeah. Why don't we dive deeper into that? Let's talk about those little things and some of those big things.
Yeah. So I started my entire career off of a after school job. And the after school job was presented to me by one of my friends that I just ran into in the bathroom in high school one day. And she said, "Oh, by the way, they're looking for another assistant at this radio company I work at." And back then, Radio Shack had existed. So I thought it was like Radio Shack, like I don't know, some after school job. And I said, "Sure, I would love to apply. I could use an after school job. It's in the city, it's close to school. Yeah, let me know what you need from me or whatever." And so I feel like had that interaction not happened, maybe my path wouldn't have been the path it is. So I was lucky enough to go that day. So I would say that probably was a bigger thing in the grand scheme of my life, but a little thing at the time, just that one little interaction. And then from the bigger scale, I am very thankful of the health around me. So whether it be, having four healthy boys, being able to live through those circumstances of pregnancies I've gone through, miscarriages and stuff like that. So, there's definitely an appreciation for everything, the fortune that I do have. And obviously being able to start a business and do that. I don't have a yacht. I would look great on a yacht, I'm telling you, but I don't have a yacht and it's not that level. But I am appreciative and feel that I'm very lucky to have what I'm have and have a business that I have and be surrounded with the people that I have in my life. So a series of little things as well as large things that all kind of bring that luck to us.
Well, I absolutely can appreciate that. It's those little things that can create big movement in our life, which, it starts with that introduction. It starts with that relationship. It starts with good health. It starts with having that baby, right? And yes, it starts with sometimes things not working out exactly the way you planned, but also learning and gaining wisdom from those experiences to move on to those next steps.
Absolutely. We may think that something is not a great opportunity or a situation at the time, and then we can look back years later or, days later and say, "Oh, wow, had that not happened, I would have been in this situation." There's the famous story of what the man's rushing out and he's late or, spills his coffee and you have to change your shirt and now you're late. And then you are driving and you realize you missed a car accident because you did that. So something that may seem unlucky ends up being lucky for us for a different reason. And so I try not to dwell on things that happen and think there's maybe a reason for something, and I'll be appreciative of it regardless and try to look at the best in it.
Absolutely. I love that perspective. You are so right. We can get in that car and something could delay us from A, B, or C, and yet it could have been a miracle that day, or we may not have gotten on that plane for a certain reason. When we look at that from that perspective,
Yeah.
I think it brings more joy,
Mm-hmm.
more happiness, just more hope, more clarity
Yeah.
a lot of times too. right? So, Kim, your story starts with a big shift from high powered New York City to advertising to founding your own agency. What sparked that decision?
So I was struggling as a mom, honestly, with the commute. I had a 2-hour commute each way. I managed a decent sized team. I was a sales manager. And so I had a lot of pressure with traveling and being in the office during certain times. And I was missing a lot. And I felt like there's got to be a better way. And going back to that after school radio job in high school, there was always women in job share roles. And I just felt like, wow, that's just so amazing how they could be moms. They work 3 days a week each. They're able to be with their kids the other days. They're working. This was prior to laptops and cell phones, but they always got it done. And so they got the best of both worlds. Like that was the perfect work life balance. And I know there's a lot of opinions on is there truly a work life balance, but I felt like that's as close to it as possible. And when I think of work life balance, I think of it as a seesaw. It's not always perfect, it's just what you need at the time. And can you look at it at the end of the day and say, it's as close as it can get to being balanced? And that works for me. You know, nothing in life is ever perfect. And I don't think we should look at it that way. I think we should look as you're lucky enough to have both situations and be able to do both. And so I tried bringing that when I started to have kids into the work environments. I was always pitching it. So maybe I wasn't that great of a salesperson because I never got it sold through at all anywhere.
Right.
But there was other women that were having babies and were really great salespeople. And I had said, what if we job share? And we each work 3 days and I get to be there for my kids. And it was always a no. And as I grew up in the ranks in my career, I was able to leave early or work from home, or if I had to take a kid to a doctor, like I was afforded those things, but not everybody around me was. And I just felt like it was unfair for women to go to college, get a degree, want a career, and then I'm sorry, you had kids, you don't get to anymore. Do
Hmm.
both. Like it's
Yeah.
make a choice. And I respect women that want only a career and maybe they have somebody that picks up some of the other stuff, and I respect women that want to stay home and don't want to go to a typical office or have that type of role. Like I have no judgment on how anyone wants to live their life, but for me, I felt like I had these kids and I wasn't there as much as I needed to be. And my son had a journal in preschool. Every page was a drawing of mommy going to work, a drawing of mommy going on a plane. My mom goes to the city to make money. And I just felt like, wow, I was embarrassed, honestly.
Mm.
And it made me so sad to think that that's how he looked at me. And I wanted him to look at me as, other memories.
Hmm.
And so it took a long time to get to the point where I could make this decision and this move. I was 3 kids in. And finally, there was a couple of breaking points. I had a son that ended up being hospitalized for a little while. And I had a really good boss for certain things. I had a lot of different bosses over the years, but I literally had a miscarriage at work
Mm.
and then was expected to travel after for a sales conference. They did accommodate me in the end and things. I still went on the trip. I missed part of the trip, supposed to be going for 2 weeks. So I went the second week. But, those types of things, that's real life.
Yeah.
And work is important. And I get it as a business owner, how companies are important and, all of that. But that was kind of all the little things that added up to me getting to the point to say, this isn't working. There's got to be a better way for women. And it could be men too. We hire men. It's not just exclusive to women. And it doesn't have to be parents, but that's how we started. It was really started for working moms, moms that wanted a balance, being able to have a career and then have something for themselves with their kids as well as their work.
Well, that is so important. It takes me back, and I'm going to date myself here. It takes me back to movies like Baby Boom, Working
Hmm.
Girl.
Yes.
That was my perspective because that's how we were conditioned. We're
Yeah.
going to go to work. We're going to go up the ladder. We're going to have that office with a window. Yet life starts developing. you want to have children, you want to have a family, and you're thinking, well, why am I giving up all of these things? Again, I don't fault anybody for their way of life and what they choose to do. That's
Mhm.
up to you. But again, we saw this happening over and over again. And so you developed, Kym, you started something that was incredible. You went and shifted your lifestyle to be a mom. You're a mom of four and a successful entrepreneur. What have you learned about blending business success with family life in a sustainable way?
So the key is the hires and who we bring on as a team, and having people that are committed to the mission and the purpose. Like they want this business to be here so that they can have this, I don't want to say lifestyle, but have this life. So you want to be able to work, and maybe you're working part-time and maybe you're working shift hours, or you're working on the weekend or something like that, where we're in like a relay race. So everyone, passes the baton and someone says, okay, I'm only working, 9 to 12. Those are my hours. That's it. So we do shift work. And then someone else comes in at 12 and takes over till 3. And then someone else comes in. So finding the right talent that can fit into that. Now, I will say, I know a lot of the people already that work for us from past lives. I've been in this space 26 years. So you work with different people. And if you have an opportunity to work with them again, maybe I do prey on those women that I've worked with that have had that second child, and I know they don't want to go back to the office because I know how horrible that is. Like maybe I bug them a little bit until, I tell them how great it is. Do you want to come on board? But they have told me that's the best job they've ever had. So I will take
Fantastic.
my stalking okay. But that's really what it comes down to, is having people as committed as much as possible as you are, because they want to see it succeed, and they want this not only for themselves but to be there for others, and that there's a legacy to have where you could be able to have it all in quotes
Yeah.
and have the life you want and be there for your kids, because stuff happens. I was here in the office the other day and my son's calling with a headache at 2 o'clock, got to run and pick him up and come back. You need that ability to do that. Whereas with my first son, I was working differently. I didn't have a company. And the other day we actually said, oh, he was on the fencing team. We actually never went to any of the matches
Mm,
at the school because I couldn't. I couldn't be
yeah.
at a 4 o'clock game. Like I
Yeah.
had to save that for when he was sick or something big. I don't want to say waste it, but like it's like your credits. You can only use so many of them for that kind of stuff. And then people think you're weak. I was one of the few female managers. It was more male dominated. So if I wasn't there, I was weak, right?
Yeah.
To your point, the wives are home doing that.
Yeah.
So you become the default to go for a sick day or something else. You're the weaker one, right? That's
Mhm.
why you were chosen to do that instead. And I have a really supportive husband. We have a good relationship. But when he was in corporate, the dad doesn't take off for a sick day,
Right.
despite the fact that he would try. That's frowned upon. Now he works with me, so it doesn't matter. And we tag team and switch it off. But it has to be the mom that takes off a lot of times.
Yeah. And like you said, that's kind of the default. Mom will do it. Mom will do the finances. Mom will take care of the kids. Mom will work a full-time job. Sometimes that can become very overwhelming. And when you have a company like yours, which you built with that whole ideology of and practice of, let's do it differently. Let's have some of that balance in our lives. You built Always on Digital to empower working parents. Why was that mission, and you've mentioned some of this, so personal for you, and how does it show up in your business culture? Can you give an example? And I think you already have, because I love the whole idea and the visual of the baton, but
Yeah.
speak to that.
Absolutely. So it is true. We have some people that have really young kids that end up sick from daycare. I can't do this. And we will get a Slack message that comes in, hey, can anyone take over this? I've got to do this. And it's like, I've got your back. And that is the internal motto mission. Like, I have your back. People step up to do things. Whereas I think in a typical like corporate culture, you have people that are like, why am I doing her job? Or why am I doing his
Mhm.
job? where this is like, no, we're all here together. Like we are all a community, which you
Mhm.
and I had spoken about being part of a community that is here to help each other. Maybe we're not raising each other's kids in a village, but we're doing each other's work in a village, and having that perspective of let's just get it done, which I think it's just in our DNA. Right. Something has to get
Right.
done. We're going to get it done. Doesn't matter when, like we'll figure it out. If you're making cupcakes at 11 o'clock at night, it's going to get done. Christmas, it's going to get done. Like it just gets done. And it's that same thing that happens here is like, we have to just get it done. So whoever can jump in and help and pass the baton, that's the critical part, the mission of it.
Yeah. Your values are out there. Your values are
Hmm.
really clear. Your mission is clear that you are this incredible ecosystem that's going to thrive in a different way.
Hmm.
It's not to say that, those companies aren't thriving, but they're more like surviving
Yeah.
where your community is thriving. And why can't more communities look like yours, like Always on Digital? Because that is going to meet the mission. It's going to retain those employees. You're going to have a community that works and builds together and are passionate about their work where you care about one another.
Yeah, it's important to respect the people you work with. I know, especially on social media, you see so much backlash of these corporations and things that are happening, return to office, and how people
Hmm.
revolt against things. And we are mainly remote. We do have an office, but not everyone goes to it because not everyone is in New York. We only have a New York office. So,
Gotcha.
we are hybrid.
Yeah.
And I believe in being together in person whenever you can be, but there's always a balance. And these companies that don't take into consideration people and what their lives are, or, they were hired maybe after COVID and the terms were this. And it's like, okay, well, we're changing the terms. And if you don't like it, you can leave. Is that mutual respect for that person? And I'm not saying companies have to bend over backwards, but have you ever had a conversation versus just a policy that was thrown out there? It is possible in big companies. I worked for a large company a while ago that had a work from home policy way before COVID. They had a you can work anywhere program. And they were successful and they still are a really successful company. They've done it right. So it's not unique that you only can be a startup or a small company to have the culture and the environment that people are happy in. But we talked about the mentor, the mentee, like the
Hmm.
leveling up, like everybody's an even playing field in terms of respect and understanding. And we don't know what's going on in people's lives all the time and what struggles they have. Maybe they have an aging parent or, something that they need to have some flexibility.
Yeah.
If you listen to people and, try to work with them, they are going to be loyal and they are going to work for you. I used to go home from work and then put my kids to bed, get them dinner, do homework, sit on the couch and go back online and finish whatever needed to be done. And a lot of things in corporations is considered, that's on your own time, right? Like,
Yeah.
could you prepare your quarterly business review during the day? No, that's on your own time, right? That's something
Hmm.
you're supposed to do at night. That's a weekend thing. You don't build decks during the day. Like, you're working, you're selling, you're cold calling. And I just felt like, well, hey, wait a second. Like, you only pay me so much. And so if I'm already working all day at the office, that extra time, that's my time, right? So I'm getting
Yeah.
paid less per hour now when I look at the grand scheme of things. Like it would get done and I would do it. But that was my point. Why can't I just work the hours I want to work if it's going to get done anyway? Why am I chained to a desk just to be here when nothing is coming from it? And I could spend a couple more minutes with my kid at night.
Yeah, absolutely. And that shift in culture is a big thing. When you're out there with your vision, your values, people get a real understanding of what that is. And
Hmm.
yes, absolutely. Big corporations can do it just as well as
Hmm.
smaller businesses and entrepreneurs or solopreneurs, right? You can have the businesses that really shape a healthy workplace culture.
Hmm.
Yet you also see those businesses. There's a big banking and investment company that, they're very clear about their values. Like you will be at the job. There is no remote work.
Hmm.
They built a huge new building in New York City that's multiple levels high and said, we've also put in restaurants, we put in gyms, we put in showers. So work is life. Your work, you don't leave your desk, and we'll put everything right here. Now, if that's what you want, fine, because they're clear.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. But if you're looking at doing it differently with a different type of balance involved in your life or meeting a different needs of your life, then let's do it this way. Let's do it like always on digital. So talk more about your company. Talk more about what you do.
Yeah, so we help brands and also agencies with everything from strategy to execution. We partner with brands a lot of times on the full enchilada, I would say. So from start to finish, we can work with you on your strategy, your media planning, and then your execution across digital, traditional media. So that's your social media, your Facebook, your Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and then, banner ads, things like that, and then billboards or, TV, things of that sort. And then for agencies that already do some of that work for their clients, sometimes they are short. They need more staff. They may not be experts in a particular platform. So we can come in and help those agencies on the execution part. So we're like your extra set of hands. And the unique thing about us is that we focus on having staff that's experienced because we've all been in the business for a long time. People have 15, 20 years experience running media campaigns. So they really do know the ins and outs of some of the technology and knowing how things work and things that have worked in the past and trying to apply those learnings. And so that's generally our sweet spot for working with those two different tier of clients.
That is so important because when you have people that are familiar with different systems within that framework of work, knowledge with that type of work and experience, it makes such a huge difference. You feel a sense of trust, a sense of confidence as somebody who is hiring you and saying, okay, they've got it. I feel comfortable with this. We have covered so much here, and I absolutely love one, the culture that you're building, to what you do for other companies and how you help them, and you bring these really experienced people in so that you can help these other companies thrive. And that's so important. So, as we come to the close of the interview, my last question is, what is one tip you could leave high level executives with, especially women who are considering stepping away from the corporate ladder to build something on their own terms?
Have the confidence in yourself to do it. Because I am sure that if you are high up on the corporate ladder, your career now, you've got there because of your skills. And so a lot of times we think, oh, well, that doesn't apply to starting my own business. Well, I didn't go to business school. And sometimes ignorance is bliss. And we say, you know what? I can do it. Why not me? Why can't I do the same thing that someone else does? I managed to get this far in my career or, have done this much. Like take a look at yourself and be confident in stepping away and making that change. I will say that we don't always need as much as we think we do to be successful. And as an example, maybe you were working in a $12 million book of business you had as a salesperson. Your company takes a piece, everyone takes a piece of that $12 million. So in real life, if you're going out on your own, could you do the same thing and be at 2 million or 5 million and be happy and successful? Like success will look like what you want it to be. It doesn't have to be what someone else is doing. We have this imposter syndrome sometimes where we forget all the experience and the knowledge we have and what we've done somewhere else and think that that gets erased when you start over. No, it doesn't. You're still that person. You've done those things. So be confident and take that with you. It was a lesson I actually kind of heard at a government conference where they're like, your experience is your experience. That's yours. You got to take that with you. Don't forget that. And I think that that's an important thing to remember. I think sometimes we start over somewhere and we feel like, oh, we're the newbie or we don't have this or no, you've done this before. You get to keep that. So make sure you use it and be confident.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Thank you, Kym, for joining me on the Core Women podcast today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You can connect with Kym Insana on Facebook and LinkedIn and at getalwayson.com.
Thank you for joining us on the Core Women podcast with Dr. Summer Watson. We're so glad you're here and would love to connect more with you. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Core Women and on Twitter at Core Women 1. For more about Core Women and Dr. Watson, visit corewomen.com. Want more support and resources for amazing women like you? great. Join Dr. Watson and Jen Fontanilla at the Life, Love, and Money Collective, a core women production that aids in understanding the key traits that might be getting in the way of living a life that you are absolutely passionate about. Connect with Summer and Jen and find out more at thelifeloveandmoney.com.